Boys, I wanted to start off with Manchester United because obviously it's been announced that Marcus Rashford is now back and available in the first team squad. He's been disciplined internally. He was dropped for the game in the FA Cup. He's taken on board his punishment, is accepted that he was in the wrong and moved on from it. And the club are now saying he's available to play. He's available to be picked. There's an article I read today in the Daily Mail that's it's a very long headline, is Man United's men behaving badly after Marcus Rashford's sick day after a 12-hour tequila bender. Jadon Sancho calling the boss a liar, 2 legal sagas, and a Cristiano Ronaldo row. Is there a cultural issue? Is there a cultural issue for Ten Hag is the question of the headline. We know there's one. I don't think that's in question. But has this Rashford thing, LB, been handled correctly with him being allowed back so quickly, in your opinion?
Well, let's start off by saying they've handled it a lot better than Sancho, in my personal opinion, because that Sancho one was handled horrifically from Ten Hag, who actually put the club under a lot of pressure financially because, you know, once you have a player and there's been a bust up, like we had it with Cancelo, the selling club is just, they're not in any power position because you don't have any, you know, you want to, when you're selling a player, you kind of want the player to be important to the team, right? So then you can say, well, he's important to us, so we want this, we want that. But when you kind of make it known to the public that you've had a falling out and he's no longer going to play, then you kind of lose all that power. So Ten Hag did no favours with Man United about the Sancho deal. And I'm sure whoever was dealing with the finances at the time was just absolutely shaking the head when he heard him say what he said about Sancho. So step one, yes, 100%. He's handled this a lot better. I thought it was quite funny. I don't know if you've seen his interview when he was asked. I think it was in the game recently, and the interviewer was like, "What's going to happen with Rashford? Has he been dropped?" And he was just like, "It's an internal matter." And he said, "Will he be fined? Will he be dropped?" And he just said, "It's an internal matter." I thought that was really actually quite funny from Ten Hag, to be honest with you, because it was almost like he was making a point that he was that he's learned from these mistakes. The question is then, obviously, and I guess this is more for Man United fans because it's your club, not mine. Like, are you happy with the punishment? And I think that I understand there's a lot of United fans out there that are very frustrated at Rashford. They feel that he's on far too much money. They don't feel that he performs well enough on the pitch. Maybe even feel that sometimes he's a little bit lazy and lets the badge down, lets the shirt down, which I accept. And when I've watched United, I do see that. But obviously, when it's your own club, you sort of see it more because obviously you're more invested. From my point of view, the stance that I take on it, if I was a Manchester United fan, is he's been punished, he's been disciplined, he's kind of been publicly shamed because everyone kind of knows what's happened. Don't try not to make this a bigger deal than what it is. He's been punished. The club have done well. The manager's done the right thing. Try and move on from it. But just because your club is, and you just mentioned cultural issues, and you kind of laughed at it because everyone knows that there's cultural issues. That has been addressed in terms of the punishment. If it was me as a United fan, I'd just kind of be like, it's dealt with. He's been punished. He's been embarrassed in the press, on you know the power that YouTube channels have and social media creators have. Everyone's kind of cooked him. I'd kind of just be like, it's done with. Let it lie. In my personal opinion, because I just don't think it's healthy for Manchester United to making this worse than it is. From his point of view, though, yeah, he needs to sort his head out quick because there's a lot of United fans. I don't know your stance on this, Terry, that are just done with him, and I understand why they're done with him because how many chances is he gonna get?
It's such an interesting and it's become a more complex situation because of the fans and Player FC. So I agree with you. I thought the handling of Sancho's situation was horrendous. I understand I think what Ten Hag was going for. I think he was trying to publicly shock Sancho into being better across the board, but it backfired. And at the end of the day, you're judged by your actions. Then we were leaking information and making him eat with the kids. And I just thought to myself, it was handled horrendously. And Sancho was treated a bit appallingly, in my opinion. So it has been handled better. I think the frustration for me is the way I see people say it's double standards FC. Or the manager's the hypocrite. And I think they're misunderstanding the term of hypocrite. He's learned from his mistakes and he isn't making the same mistake again. You can't then double beat him over the head and say, well, you're a hypocrite now. So, because if he hadn't have changed and done it again, you would say you're a fool, Ten Hag. You haven't learned from your mistakes. But yet he learns from his mistakes, and we say you're being a hypocrite.
Correct.
It's almost, we're in a position sometimes, Man United fans, where we are making this into a bigger situation by not. My view is I would have banned him for another game or two. I think he should have had a longer absence from the first team. But the principle of how we've handled it, I think, is absolutely fair. I think you have to be a special type of hypocrite and spiteful, almost sociopath, to want Rashford to experience the same thing Sancho did, just because you got upset that Sancho went through what he did. That's not how I view the world. It isn't what I want. If I get mistreated, if I don't know, if I get mistreated by my local authority where I live, I don't want everybody else to be mistreated to make me feel better. I want nobody to go through my bad experiences. That's just how I kind of view the world. When it comes to Rashford, though, he has got to sort his head out. Now, I know he's had breakups. I know he's got problems off the pitch, and this can lead to mental health issues, and all of this needs to be taken seriously. But at the same time, if you're not in a position to play football, step away for a period of time. You can say he's injured, do whatever you've got to do, but you can't be out on 12-hour-long tequila-laden bashes, having pictures taken in nightclubs with girls on your lap, pointing to your head, doing your celebration, and then calling in sick 12 hours later, because it isn't just football fans, music fans wouldn't accept this. If you bought tickets to go watch your favorite artist, he went out on the lash on a Wednesday night, and then on Thursday he cancels your show, you're going to be fuming. And that's kind of how football fans feel. And it's only in football where we get told to not be harsh on the players. So I think Rashford has been rightfully dragged over the coals. Anybody that makes, again, I've seen certain Man United fans say the media have let him off the hook. I don't know what newspapers and articles they have been reading. If you look at the Daily Mail today as an example, you look at the Athletic this week, if you look at the tabloids we all hate, by the way, the sort of Mirrors and the Suns, they've absolutely ripped him to pieces. So he's had all of that. But Man United fans have got to learn from this. We bemoaned and said, Sancho, we got it wrong. We were bad to him. And as you said, it damaged the financial side. But now we almost want to do that to Rashford. It's like, stop. You're the ones for me that are being the biggest hypocrites here. And I think we all play a part. So look, I am at my end of my tether with Rashford as well. And it isn't so much with his behavior, which I've condemned. I just think he's also a poster boy of our failed 10 years. And I would move him on from the football club now, irrespective, as a way of wiping the slate clean. I would cash in. We know PSG want him. I think PSG would pay us a pretty penny. I think they would pay his wages. They've been desperate for him for 4 or 5 years. He's still young enough to go there. Mbappe's leaving. If he's going to go, that's the fit. Move him on to PSG, cash in, and go from there. But what I am really upset about is Man United fans who have really shown their asses here. I think you can be annoyed that he hasn't had a longer ban from the first team, but begging and praying for the manager and the club to make the same mistakes with Rashford they made with Sancho. Again, as I say, I think you've got to be a very special type of spiteful sociopath to think like that. I really do. You are devoid of proper human emotions if that's how your brain works for me. I just can't fathom why you want Rashford and just move Rashford aside for a minute, because I get you might not like him. Why do you want the club being dragged through more turmoil? Like, fans should be trying their best for that. Sometimes you've got to call your club out. Sometimes you have to criticize your club. But there are times when you say, all right, this has been done enough now. It's like when Sancho was in trouble. I criticized him for performances, and I criticized him when it turned out he weren't training hard enough. But as soon as everyone started turning on him, I was like, whoa, it's enough now. You're going too far.
Harry, you know what it's like?
Keep attacking him every day. It's mad.
It's like the teacher's pet getting in trouble comparison to the guy who's been getting in trouble a couple times now. That's what people are comparing it to. It's not, give him the same treatment. It's just, you can see that one is getting a little bit more of an easier time than the other. That's what majority of people are saying. And when it comes to Marcus Rashford, now we need to talk about him as a player. Does he want to be a good player, or does he want to be a great? What does he want? Because clearly, if he's not focused on his craft and he's going out, having nights out, not training, not taking it serious, people are going to start questioning him as a professional and how serious he actually wants to master his craft. He's still not gone and become this clear player where he can do a Ronaldinho and be out and then put a masterclass in the next night. He's still, 25 years old. Yes, he's making clear money, but first things first is football. That's your profession. That's your bread and butter. If you're going out on nights out and doing all these madness, it can definitely hamper your career going forward. So he needs to focus on that, number one. And then when it comes to the Manchester United side of things, I think you guys handled it quite well. You learned from the Sancho situation. But the biggest thing to take away from this is let internal matters stay as internal matters. I think a lot of times, because you're one of the biggest clubs in the world, or one of the biggest clubs in England, of course, there's going to be they're gonna love the controversy, but as fans, you guys can't feed into it and make it worse than it is. It's already as bad as it is. As fans, you guys kind of need to support your players and need to kind of support them through tough times. And once those tough times come through, you then can look at it and say, come the end of the season, do we want this player around, or are they more of a headache? And that's where I'm thinking Manchester United might be looking in the future. Is Rashford a part of your future, or is he part of your problem? That's where you need to look at.
Yeah, look, listen, I think there's a few things there to unpack. He isn't good enough to not focus on football as his main thing. He isn't Ronald. He is not of the level of a Ronaldinho or an R9 or a Rooney, where he can be a little bit distracted and still deliver. He has to be 100% focused. And when he was doing good things that were distracting him, taking on the MPs and fighting for feeding the underprivileged children in England, as honourable as that was, I felt that it took its toll upon him on the football pitch as well. He's a very good footballer when he's fully focused. As soon as his mind is elsewhere, he's going for a bad time, he falls off. And I think that's why the club needs to be very ruthless here and look at, can we find somebody that's as good, but also more consistent, especially when he goes through adversity in his personal life. I think that's a fair thing to look at. In terms of the treatment, though, the problem when you compare the situations of Jadon Sancho, Rashford, Ronaldo, is we're comparing apples and oranges. Still to this day, all Ten Hag actually said about Sancho is that he didn't train to the right standard, so he didn't pick him. Everything else has come out via leaks. However, that was to do with how hard he did or didn't apply himself in training. Rashford's situation is different. He went out drinking when he shouldn't have done. You could argue that's worse in some respects. But the difference between the two circumstances is that Rashford has appeared to have said sorry, held his hands up, taken blame, hasn't released statements about the football club. Again, as wrong as Ten Hag was to go public, Sancho's response equally wasn't right. Now, you get this response from people online when they go, well, I would have done the same thing. Yeah, and you'd have lost your job. If your boss today upsets you at work and you go onto social media and slag your company or slag your boss off, most of you will have signed agreements in your employment contract that state you can't do that. Sancho's behavior wasn't correct just because it makes you feel better. So because the scenarios, and Ronaldo's situation, Rashford hasn't gone on to Piers Morgan and ripped into the football club. Now, some of the things that Ronaldo said were right. But isn't it funny how we're now that Man United fans have gone from saying you shouldn't air up dirty linen in public to saying everything Ronaldo said was right? So what, are you advocating talking about internal problems publicly now, or are we not? This is the problem with this whole scenario. Everybody is picking and choosing what they want to see. Generally speaking, for me, 9 times out of 10, I want everything kept behind closed doors. When players are wrong, even if they feel that the club's handled it wrong, you handle those situations behind the scenes. So my problem with comparing these circumstances is they're all different. There's such different situations and scenarios and everything else going on. You can't just compare it to that. Now, I think Sancho is, as I said, I repeat it again, completely and utterly mistreated in the end by the football club. Both made mistakes. It was an absolute clusterfuck. The same as the Ronaldo situation as well. Should have been allowed to go in the summer. We kept him. They became a problem. But him sitting on a Piers Morgan interview to orchestrate a move away, even though he said some things I agree with about the training facilities, the Glazers, I agree with those things. That isn't the right way of going about it, in my personal opinion, because as soon as you start saying it's okay, the irony is, this is the way fans think. I don't like the manager giving people preferential treatment. At the same time, fans do the identical thing by saying, well, I love Ronaldo, so he can say it. I love Martial, so he can say it, but I hate Maguire, so he can't. That's literally echoing the same behavior they don't want to see at their football club. And this is why Mark Goldbridge called it out earlier. Fans like that are a big problem because it's almost like the club's being run in the same way that echoes the behavior of certain fans. And you want it to be kept behind closed doors as best you can. Sometimes you can't help it. If, like the Rashford thing,
until it suits your agenda.
The manager couldn't say nothing about it. The manager couldn't lie to us in that circumstance because we know he was out the night before because he was caught on camera. But Yeah, I don't necessarily think that. One thing this does show me, above and beyond everything else, is that Ineos have got a big job on their hands fixing the culture at Man United, because it's absolutely broken.
Well, Terry, United needs to become a boring football club, right? Manchester City are boring, yeah. We get no stories. The Cancelo thing was deaded within 24 hours. He was loaned out, and there was very little thing. Man United, yeah, have literally just so much to talk about all the time because everything just gets leaked. Everything gets leaked. Yeah, it's ridiculous how much rubbish is out there. Man United needs to become boring. Yeah, Sancho brought the club into disrepute when he gave that contract, but that was because Ten Hag called him out. Now people will say, "Well, Ten Hag was right to call him out." Well, he wasn't right, was he? Because he brought your club into disrepute. Look at the mess that Manchester United were in because of what Ten Hag did. Ten Hag should have known the person that Sancho was. You know, I always mention this, but the guy went on strike at Manchester City at the age of what, like 17, 18 or something like that. The guy went AWOL. You know, apparently he turned up late all the time at Borussia Dortmund. You should know the players. That's part of your job as a manager. People like to credit Ferguson as being one of the best man managers of all time. You've got to know your players. And that was a mistake. Now, Manchester United have learned, Ten Hag has learned from that mistake. And as Terry says, you can't then say, oh, he's got preferential treatment. No, he's not got preferential treatment. He's learned from his mistake. What do you want him to do? Do you want him to do the same thing again with Rashford?
Well, this is what this comment here from Alex says. Rashford is being treated with favour. That attitude from the management is detrimental to his future. It seems like Ten Hag can't think properly, with all due respect. Again, I have to disagree as well. I'm not happy with the punishment. I would have made it longer, but the handling of the situation has been fine. I can't. You can't say it's wrong to do what he did to Sancho and then say it's double standards from the manager.
So Alex, what do you want him to do? Do you want Ten Hag to come out tomorrow and be like, yeah, Rashford, absolutely ridiculous. We've had it confirmed. He was out partying all night. Absolute disgrace. This guy, rotten to the core. He's training with the under-21s. We ain't feeding him. Yeah, none of this kind of stuff. What's like we did to Sancho? Yeah, is that what you want to? Is that what you? I mean, I think you're an Arsenal fan, so you probably do want that. To be fair, but like,
listen, there's agendas, bro, and I'm not saying Alex has an agenda, but there is certain parties that have agendas and that want Rashford to get treated similar to Jadon Sancho because they like Jadon Sancho, or they thought what Jadon Sancho had to go through was unfair and they want to see another player go through this. They just want a level of consistency. And then even then they're still criticized. So I just feel like it's criticized for criticized sake. I think this is better for your club. It's kind of blowing over quite quickly. And people are going on to the next thing. I don't know how this situation is being spoken about more than Kyle Walker's situation, in my opinion. That's even more crazy.
Well again, I don't agree with that, and that's another thing. But when it comes to this circumstance, there's so many sociopaths out there that show themselves that they are somebody that we see it all the time with Raheem Sterling. I thought it was a disgrace the way the media treated Raheem Sterling. But you can tell a sociopath from what I would consider a normal human being. A normal human being says, I want Raheem Sterling to be treated in the same way as I see Harry Kane being treated. They're both lovely lads. They both work hard, both family men. They should both be treated equally as well. That's what a normal person says. What a sociopath says is, I want Harry Kane to be treated as disgustingly bad as well. That, for me, is a warped way of viewing the world. You should want everybody's treatment to be elevated to the best possible, not everybody's dragged down to the worst. You start taking what you're saying through to the nth degree. You're an Arsenal fan, Alex. So Arteta makes a mistake tonight with a substitution. Do you not want him in the next game to not make that mistake again? Or do you want him to be consistent in that mistake so that he doesn't appear to have double standards or a hypocrite for not doing it? It's crazy. Of course you want people to learn from their mistakes. I don't understand that bit, really. Some comments.